Hi Ocean lovers, welcome to Season 2, Episode number 7 of Dive Stories, brought to you by PADI, helping millions around the world to seek adventure and save the ocean. I'm your host, Ocean Allison, and on today's episode, I'm chatting with PADI instructor and tech diver, Melodie Treviño. During this episode, Melodie shares all about her adventures diving in Mexico's cenotes and beyond, about what draws her to technical diving, and her fundamental thoughts on being a PADI professional. All that and more coming right up. Thanks for being here. Ready to jumpstart your next underwater adventure? Good news! We're offering Dive Stories podcast listeners an exclusive 20% off all PADI recreational e-learning courses. With PADI e-learning, you can start your next dive adventure right now from the comfort of your own home before connecting at any time with a PADI dive center or resort to complete your in-water training. Head to PADI.com/courses to select which dive course is right for you and use code PODCAST, that's PODCAST, to take advantage of this exclusive 20% off discount. You're listening to Dive Stories. We bring the underwater world to you through in-depth conversations with inspiring divers from around the globe. Thanks for diving in with us as we seek adventure and save the ocean. Happy listening and happy diving. Today's Dive Stories guest is PADI instructor and tech diver, Melodie Treviño. Melodie, welcome to Dive Stories and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be part of the PADI Dive Stories.
Yay. Awesome. Well, we're actually going to start out by diving right into what we call the Dive 5. And how the Dive 5 works is at the start of each episode, I ask our guest 5 rapid fire questions about their experience as a diver and an ocean lover. So what do you think, Melodie? Are you ready to answer the Dive 5?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, great. Number 1, where is the first place you ever took a breath underwater?
It was in the Caribbean side of Mexico, and it was warm water, and it was amazing.
Great. Okay, number 2, in one word, how does scuba diving make you feel?
Happy.
I love it. Okay, number 3, what is the deepest depth you've ever gone to while tech diving?
450 feet.
Wow, that is really wild and amazing. Okay, number 4, what is your favorite ocean animal?
I will say manatees.
Okay, and then last one, number 5, in just one word, what does the ocean mean to you?
Life.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for answering the Dive 5, Melodie. We're going to get a little more in depth now and jump into the core of the interview. And I want to start out by talking about the incredible diving opportunities where you live in Riviera Maya, Mexico, most notably, in my opinion, being cenotes, which I know you've spent countless hours exploring. So I'd love if you could describe a little bit of what a cenote is for maybe people listening that aren't familiar with them, and then also kind of paint a picture, so to speak, of what it's like to slip beneath the surface and dive in a cenote.
Yeah, well, basically cenotes are underwater rivers that are formed of our aquifers in the Mexican Caribbean and in the Riviera Maya, generally speaking. And the feeling it's quite different than diving in the ocean because basically you are going under the karst, and then in some caverns and in some caves, depending on what type of diving are you doing, you get these amazing, really, really spectacular beams of lights that enters from the sky to the cavern, and then you're diving in a kind of dark area, but you're also always, if you do it in a cavern, you're always seeing the light some sort of way. And it's slightly colder, for example, than the ocean here in Mexico in the Caribbean side. And it's really, really amazing. It's really spectacular. And the most amazing part part is that in this area we have thousands of cenotes. And believe me or not, each one is so different and unique. So the experience can vary like a lot because of the formations, because of the colors of the karst or the stones or the type of underwater system you are diving in. So I will recommend to anyone that is a scuba diver to experience at least once in a lifetime the cenotes.
Sounds good. So, like I mentioned in the intro, you are a PADI technical diver, or tech diver for short. You're also a PADI certified trimix diver, rebreather diver, and a cave diver, which is all just really, really impressive. So, I'm curious, what is it that draws you to these more technical areas of scuba diving?
I guess, in generally speaking, the idea of exploration, I have always been the type of person that likes to push it a little bit more and to see what's going on outside my comfort zone. And I guess that's how I moved from the open water diver to my advanced, and then to my advanced to all the courses that were needed to start doing my technical diving and so on. No. Definitely the idea of being in places that no one has been before, or the idea of documenting that and record all that information or collect all that information and share it with other people, for me is one of the most amazing feelings I can feel with my diving. And yeah, I guess it's spectacular when you are able to step a little bit outside of your comfort zone and see what you can do with your own self.
Now, on the topic of tech diving and cave diving, I do want to highlight the fact that you were recently part of a super cool expedition supported by Rolex, and it was part of their Perpetual Planet initiative. And to give listeners a little bit of backstory, it involved a team of 6 highly skilled scuba divers, Melodie being one of them, mapping and taking water samples from underground cave systems that are like the region's freshwater aquifer in this region of Mexico. And this was all with the intention of assessing water pollution levels and ultimately, protecting this unique and really important resource and environment. So, Melodie, can you share a bit about what it was like being part of this expedition team and what went into making these dives possible?
Yeah, definitely this experience, the Cenote expedition, has been one of the highlights in my diving career so far. First of all, because it was a team formed only by women, and it's hard to find sometimes. Not anymore in the current times, but before it was kind of complex to find a lot of girls doing crazy stuff as technical divers of cave exploration or etc. And being able to dive with them was just spectacular from the day one, from the moment zero till we wrapped the whole project. And yeah, like you mentioned, we did this with the idea of collecting all this information about what's going on in these aquifers and how the pollution travels from one place to the other, and then taking water samples, and then to kind of form a baseline of water information in this area. But also being able to jump in a pristine cave, let's say a virgin cave, and try to put some line in it, and then to dive literally to the unknown was just a spectacular feeling. And we are really, really happy that we got the support by Rolex and other sponsors that were really, really believing in this project. And we are hoping to continue doing it in the near future. Yes.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And what goes into kind of planning that kind of diving, right? Like you mentioned, going into some areas that literally maybe no one has ever been in. What kind of planning and preparation on behalf of yourself and the rest of the all-female dive team, what goes into that?
Yeah, well, basically, we plan for, like in every technical dive or cave dive, you plan to have redundancy on everything, your gear, whatever it's needed, any tool that you need, you plan to have it redundancy, let's say twice of it, right? But also for these types of dives, exploration dives, you plan and you kind of train your mindset when you get into a cave, because you're putting line, but you're swimming to the unknown, and you know that things may happen, but you have to stay calm and you have to be able to manage whatever situation may happen inside the cave, so you're going to be able to get out, right? So in this type of dives, I guess we all are very experienced divers. We have had a lot of training to reach this type of level of diving and stuff. But the most important part we train is our mindset and our, let's say, self-control in order to be able to get in and to get out. So when they ask me, I will say about this is that basically your mindset is everything that you need, plus all the training and plus all the gear, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Now, in talking about conservation, which was, largely the impetus for that whole project, I know you have an MBA in sustainable development, and advocating for environmental sustainability in the dive industry is a major focus for you.
Yeah.
So what are some of the primary conservation-focused initiatives that you've helped to, jumpstart or implement in your region?
Yeah, in fact, I'm super excited because we are about to launch a non-for-profit here in this area with some very qualified people and let's say master of certain species. So we are trying to gather. I mean, we've been doing it, but now we're going to do it like in a more formal way to procure. Let's say to put the pieces together to build a good like network in which we can protect the primary species of this area: manatees, crocodiles, of course our corals, and all the biodiversity we have in this area. And I've been doing it since the day one I start living in this area. But now I'm super excited that I'm going to be able to do it formally and with a huge team that I'm going to be posting soon in my social media if you guys want to follow. And I will be very happy to involve anyone that is into conservation, because here in this area of Mexico, we have a lot of things that we can protect.
Okay, ocean lovers, it's time for the dive log, the part of the show where we feature an epic dive story from one of our amazing listeners. This episode's listener dive story comes from PADI rescue diver Dan Callahan in the UK about an unforgettable dive he had in Madagascar. Let's dive in.
Hi Dive Stories, I'm Dan from Bournemouth in the United Kingdom. My most memorable dive experience was a night dive back in 2013 while working with marine conservation NGO Blue Ventures on the southwest coast of Madagascar. There's something truly magical about diving in the ocean at night, from the change of the marine creatures compared to the day to the experience of bioluminescence. The richness of life during this dive was unlike any other that I had done before, with octopus, moray eels, pufferfish and other life that we struggled to identify. But the best sight of all was a small shoal of fish around a Fenian enemy, with extended tentacles that I'd never seen before, either in or out of the water. When a fish accidentally touched the anemone, it instantaneously wrapped the fish in its tentacle and retracted it to its mouth. We spent at least 10 minutes hovering around watching this stunning predator-prey relationship unfold before our eyes, and it's an experience I will never forget.
Thank you so much, Dan, for sharing that incredible underwater experience with us. I would say that watching an anemone eat a fish during a night dive definitely makes for an unforgettable dive. Listeners, if you have an epic dive story to share too, head to padi.com/podcast to record and submit one of your most memorable dive stories for a chance to be featured in an upcoming episode. We love hearing from our global community of PADI divers, so head to padi.com/podcast today. And now, back to this episode. Now, Melodie, like I mentioned in the intro, you're also a PADI instructor. So I'm curious, for you personally, what does it mean to get to connect other human beings with scuba diving, with this ability to explore the underwater world?
Honestly, it's one of the most amazing feelings I can have is when I see someone's eyes for the first time underwater breathing from a regulator. Is just amazing. It kind of fills my heart with love, It's just amazing to see how people get involved in the ocean and how they get involved in the hobby of breathing underwater somehow. So it is really, really amazing. And for me, every person that joins us in the scuba diving journey becomes an ambassador of the ocean, because they are able to see what's going on down there, and then they are able to explain it to other people, and then they may enroll other people by just being passionate about it. And I think that's one of the best feelings I can have, because it's hard to understand things that you don't see, or that you cannot see, or that you haven't seen before, but once you are there, then everything makes sense. So that's how I always invite a lot of people, even in my social media, as an instructor, as a mentor, as a whatever I can be in the scuba diving industry. I try to explain and to enroll as many people as possible, so we can all become part of the conservation effort in this amazing big blue world.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing and very well said. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your passion for introducing people to the underwater world through scuba diving, and also with the lens of conservation. So that's really, really great. Now, shifting gears here a bit, Melodie, I do want to touch on this because I think that it's potentially really profound to share about. Last summer in 2021, you were involved in a car accident, which actually required your spine to be partially rebuilt, and of course, kept you out of the water and diving for many months. So first off, I just want to say, from all of us at PADI, we're so glad that you made a full recovery and that you've also been able to return to diving recently, which is so great. So I'm curious, what was it like for you getting to dive for the first time since the accident happened?
It just blew my mind. Honestly, I'm really amazed and in awe of what the body can do for us. I'm still surprised, that my recovery was so fast, so well. Of course, I have a really amazing doctors, and I'm very grateful that I have an amazing team. Let's say literally catching my back. But no, yeah, I honestly. But it was amazing to get back in the water. Amazing. And I was kind of concerned of how I was going to feel, I don't know, like the swimming, how my back is going to be like, if it's going to be like too soft, or if I lost a lot of strength, or etc. But no, the water, being underwater is an amazing feeling, and it's suitable for anyone. So I was super lucky that I was able to get back in the water quite fast. And when the time came, for example, for my expedition, I was wondering like how I was going to feel, if I was going to be able to manage the hike in the jungle, and then jump into Cenote, and then do this cave exploration, and etc. And I had to take it slow, but still, just the feeling of being there, doing it, just quite fast after my accident, was just amazing. And I'm happy now that I can be back in the water and almost doing everything as normal as possible. And yeah, thank you for asking, and thank you for the concern, and thank you for the PADI people for being always asking me, let's say following me up on how I was feeling, and a lot of people on my social media. I love you all.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I know it's an intense experience that you went through, but also I feel like, overall it's been a positive experience coming out of it. So I'm really, really happy for you, and I'm appreciative of you sharing about that.
No, that it's funny because sometimes I get questions like, now that you have all that titanium on your back, do you need less weight? So people, they want to know how now I do adapt to the water, like, or to my diving setup, if I change something, if I'm using less weight or something. But no, I always joke like titanium is pretty lightweight, so no,
Yeah.
I basically made no changes, a little bit maybe.
Good to know. And yeah, just out of curiosity, that first time that you did go diving post accident, like, were you just in the ocean? Did you do something, simple like a shore dive, or were you in the cenotes, or what kind of was that experience like? Where did you choose to go diving for the first time?
Yeah, no, I did the cenotes because, technically speaking, when I went the first time diving, it was quite fast after the accident, and swimming, let's say, against current or something, was something that I supposed not to do. So, what best scenario than doing it in a pool or in the cenotes, which most of them there's no current. So I choose the cenotes because I love them and because I'm a diver, and it was amazing because I was able to put my gear already in the water without carrying anything or without lifting anything, which also I was it was mandatory for me to stay away of lifting stuff for a while. I still cannot put my tank on the back and just walk, like 300 meters with it as I used to, but eventually I will. So yeah, the cenotes are very kind to us in that, like, let's say, environment where you don't have any currents, and it's basically like swimming in an amazing, beautiful, natural pool.
Yeah, wow, that sounds really, really amazing, and so fitting that you already love cenotes so much, and as you're healing and recovering and getting back into diving, that they were the perfect place for you to go. So that's so great. Now, with the name of this podcast being Dive Stories, other than the dive you just described, right? What is one of your most memorable dive stories of all time that you'd like to share with myself and listeners?
So yesterday I was in this scuba diving event where I was being asked a lot of questions, and one of the questions was this. So now that I have this answer kind of fresh, I'm gonna go and talk about this dive that I did. I was in Xcalac. Xcalac is the southernmost part of Mexico, just right in the border with Belize. And I was doing some amazing technical dives there. And in one of these dives, I was going, that day we planned to do a 420 feet dive. I always dive side mount as my preferred setup. And we were doing this hypoxic trimix diving, and I was carrying, I don't know, like 5 tanks at that moment. And suddenly, one of my regulators of my primary left side mount tank, which carries the ones that inflate my wing, my BCD, that regulator blew at 330 feet. So I was like, oh no, this is no bueno, right? This is no good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you honestly, to reach those type of levels of diving, you have to train a lot. A lot means a lot. Like, you really need to be able to control either, first of all, your mind, and second of all your movements, where is what you need to do. And that happened in seconds. So I was super, super, super happy that in seconds I was able to manage everything. And then I continued my dive, which took me even longer, my decompression dive, because I had this issue with my regulator. Nothing bad happened, but the core of the story is that when I tell this story, people get like, oh no, what? Why? Oh my God, you were in danger. I was like, it's a measurable danger. And if it's not measurable, then you shouldn't do it. And if you don't know how to solve a problem that may happen, then you shouldn't be doing it, right? So I really like the way we train, let's say, with all the tools and information that PADI has in terms of technical diving. And of course, a good instructor, Javier Salas, is my instructor for Trimix. And it was just spectacular that the feeling of overcoming a challenging situation was super rewarding, but also it's knowledge that you can use in the rest of your diving career, right? And it doesn't matter if you are in 10 feet or if you are in 450 feet. The idea of being able to overcome and to be well trained to dive to whatever level you are doing it is amazing. And yeah, that's why I love PADI.
Yeah, I love that one of your most memorable dive stories is, one, like you said, that many people's reaction would be, that sounds really scary and, challenging and whatever. And I love that it's so important to you because it actually represents, being prepared and adapting to what occurred and continuing on with safety. So that's really, really amazing. So to wrap up, Melodie, I'd love if you could share a bit about your personal journey to becoming a dive instructor, because I know you made a pretty big shift at one point from a kind of more traditional corporate career. And in addition to that, what advice do you have for really anybody in the world that's interested in becoming a PADI pro, whether they're already a diver or not?
I will say that the idea, for me, what moves me towards being a PADI pro is the idea of really enrolling other people in order to show whatever I've seen before, in order to make them part of our, let's say, our blue, our ocean. And as I mentioned before, the idea of them looking at stuff they haven't seen before and then now being connected to the ocean, for me is spectacular. So then I first moved to the Riviera Maya, and then I quit my very corporate America style job that I was doing trading and a lot of finance and a lot of numbers. But I was always felt in love with the ocean, and I always wanted to switch career, but I wasn't sure how and I wasn't sure when. Then I moved to the Riviera Maya and I started a business related to diving specifically. And I was doing diving, let's not say recreational, but not as a PADI pro. I was a technical diver already. I was a cave diver already, and I was doing a lot of diving for myself and for the business, but not specifically as a PADI pro. But then I saw that I was missing something. And now I feel super complete about what I'm doing, because part of what I do is really, really satisfying me, especially when I enroll other people into diving. So for me, it's spectacular to see how they become very passionate and how they want to develop their skills and how they want to go and travel the world to dive. For me, that's an amazing and rewarding feeling. And I will say that if you are willing to, or at least motivated to do it, just don't waste your time, just do it. Probably, if you end up happening to be, to not liking what you're doing, you can go back to your normal life. But the ocean and what we are seeing underwater is not going to be there forever unless we start protecting it and we work towards conservation. So I will say, go for it. Don't think a lot, just do it. And while you get there, enjoy the process.
Yeah, amazing advice. Thank you. Well, Melodie, on behalf of our global community of PADI divers and ocean lovers, thank you for your passion for tech diving and cave diving, for teaching and inspiring so many others to explore and protect the underwater world. And thanks so much for joining us on Dive Stories. It's really been so great speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you, PADI, for all the amazing stuff they do towards conservation and teaching people how to dive.
Thanks for tuning in to Dive Stories. You've just heard Melodie Treviño, PADI instructor and tech diver. To learn more about Melodie, her underwater adventures, and her work, you can follow her on social media at WaterMelodie. Inspired to connect with the ocean further? Good news! We're offering Dive Stories podcast listeners an exclusive 20% off all PADI recreational e-learning courses. With PADI e-learning, you can start your next dive adventure right now from the comfort of your own home. E-learning allows you to complete the online portion first and then connect at any time with a PADI dive center or resort to complete your in-water training. Whether you're just starting or continuing your diving journey, PADI e-learning is an ideal way to jumpstart your next underwater adventure. So head to PADI.com/courses to select which course is right for you and use code PODCAST, that's PODCAST, to take advantage of this exclusive 20% off discount. This has been Dive Stories, brought to you by PADI. Seek adventure, save the ocean. If you love the ocean and enjoyed this podcast episode, please subscribe to Dive Stories in your podcast app and feel free to leave a review. Follow PADI on social media and head to PADI.com to join our community of torchbearers working together to seek adventure and save the ocean. I'm your host, Ocean Allison. Happy diving!